Were there beauty shops? I go to visit my wife's beauty shop, and I find that many stereotypes are still alive and well. You know, women, when they are under those gigantic domes, still make grand assessments about our culture. They say things that they might not otherwise say, but while they're reading a magazine and they tuck their heads out for just a minute to catch what's going on and say something, and the chorus joins in with them. A man is unprepared to go in and deal with that kind of thing, because many times they are talking about men. In fact, I told my wife, I don't want to, I'll take her there, but I don't want to go in, because when I walk in, they all get quiet and I know what happened. Well, ladies, what you ought to know is that barbershops got a little problem too. There are men in barbershops who say things about you. They are not true, The quintessential barbershop comment. Some big tall guy comes in and says, when I go home, I want to hear pots rattling on the stove. In fact, I can tell you that when I step in the door, my wife is there to hand me my slippers and my newspaper. That's the kind of house I've got. Now, if you were to follow him home. But listen, if you wanted to plug into the crowd at the beauty shop or the barber shop, you should start off with this line. The nerve of Zacchaeus. I saw him the other day. Rich as he can be. You see his clothes? Where does he get those clothes? And somebody would chime in, I know where he got it, because he took it from me, my mother and my father. My whole family has been ripped off by that rascal and his ilk. I hate tax collectors. And all of a sudden a chorus would join in, and you'd find yourself popular in conversation. But here is what I want to show you tonight, and this is so central to what I want to preach, because there are people in this audience and audiences like this around the world tonight who believe that the only way Jesus will love you is if you're religious. I've heard them say it. I wish I could be like that. I wish I could be like my grandmother. She was a religious woman. Jesus loved her, and she loved Jesus. So what you do is paint religious people in with Jesus, and then paint the rest of us out here hanging on the edge. And I've heard people say, I can't go to church. I won't go to church. Because before you go to church, you got to be religious. Well, I want to tell you something. Zacchaeus was many things, but nobody would have called him religious. Then I've heard people say something that's even more odd. They said, one day I would like to go to church, especially when you have children. When you have children and they start imitating you. Have you noticed that? My grown offspring, who are present here tonight, have cautioned me against telling certain stories, so I've had to take them out of my repertoire. So let me just say, theoretically, a child can watch a parent and watch you so closely that they will mimic things about you that you don't know about yourself. One of my two children came in one day from school and sat down on the couch and said, "Phew." I said, "What is that about? You tired?" "No." "You have a hard day?" "No." "Well, why did you make that noise?" "Because that's what you do every time you come in." "No, I don't." "Yes, you do." I said, "But when I come in most of the time, I'm happy." "Yeah, but every time you sit down, you say, whew." So that's what I say. And when you finally get children, people start saying, well, maybe I ought to go to church, but I can't go to a religious situation until I'm right. See, that's like saying, I will not go to a physician until I'm well. Not going. I got a disease, but I got to cure it before I go to a doctor. The fact is that Jesus calls people who have the disease of sin. I'm going to prove it to you. The fact is that Zacchaeus had heard that Jesus was coming in one of those caravans that passed through Jericho on the way to the feast. There was always some traffic. It was not small traffic. Some of us see the Bible so quaint. We paint it so pretty, like somebody's little painting on a poster card or a greeting card. It was a thriving metropolis where wealthy people dwelt, where there was a great culture and a society, and there was always travel. Somebody with goods that had to be taxed, and there was noise and dust because this was a moving society. And among all those people that passed through, one day came somebody who didn't fit. His name was Jesus. He was the rabbi, not accepted by many, but the rabbi who had recently raised Lazarus from the dead. Don't try this at home. Let me tell you something. You can go through the Bible and knock a whole lot of things out. But if Jesus did indeed stand before a tomb, I've been there, I've finally seen what they look like. They've got these gigantic circular stones, and they roll them in troughs that are down, and they seal the bodies in. At times in ancient history, the Jewish nation believed that the soul tried to struggle to get back to the body, so they would wait for 4 days before they thought somebody was finally dead. And so Lazarus had been dead. He had gotten the call from Mary and Martha, and in fact had not gone immediately. You couldn't figure it out if you didn't understand. But sometimes Jesus had to do things that would be powerful forever. If he had come immediately, the Jewish people would have said the soul came back to the body. So he took 1 day, and then 2 days, and then 3 days, and then 4 days. And on the 4th day, Mary and Martha, along with those who loved him, rolled the stone to close that sepulcher. And they said, he's dead. Nobody can get him out of there. And I say, that's right. Nobody but Jesus. When Jesus comes, he says, roll the stone away. I could take a long time talking about how God allows you to work with Jesus to make things happen, but you've already heard that. Jesus goes down and simply says, Lazarus, come forth. Somebody says he came running. He did not. He was wrapped. But I tell you what, if I had found myself alive, wrapped, some kind of way, and gotten up, and then I'd have started coming out of there some kind of way. Because if I'm alive, I don't belong in a tomb anymore. People who are alive should be loosed. And that's exactly what Jesus said. So this had already happened. The word had already gone out. And there were plots. Listen to me. There were plots against Jesus. Greater plots, because now he had shown who he was by bringing somebody back to life. So as he entered Jericho, the priests had put together schemes and plots to kill him. But look, if you're Jesus, you let the schemes and plots handle themselves. And as he comes into town, the people who know who he is throng around him. There are people in front. There are people in back. And you know, a crowd has noise. I've heard preachers who make everything in the Bible quiet. Woe be unto you. There are some things that have a sound. People walking with Jesus have a sound. Because while Jesus walks, he heals. While Jesus walks, he forgives.